So to start off the list, the very first gun we got is the Slingshot, and everybody knows about the Slingshot, but let me tell you some secrets about it. The Slingshot is a common gun and it costs a total of 5,000 belly to buy, and the place you can buy it is from the weapons dealer who's located at Middletown in the first sea. And to upgrade this gun, you need a total of 5 leather, 5 angel wings, and the effects it gives you for this is plus 25% damage. Just like every other gun in the game, this gun has 2 different abilities. First up, we got the Z ability. This has a 20 mastery requirement and it's called Sticky Pellet. And what this does is when you shoot it at the floor, it actually kind of glues and traps your enemy in a certain area so they can't run too far away from the center of it. Next up is the X ability, and this one is called Explosive Pellet. It has a 40 mastery requirement and it does exactly what it sounds like. It literally explodes on contact with anything, and it deals a decent amount for how much the gun costs. Good things about this gun is that it's literally the cheapest gun in the game. It's easy to hit your shots and it has somewhat good combo potential for how much it costs. But the bad thing is obviously that it does extremely low damage and enemies can still use their ability when they're stuck in the Sticky Pellet one. And obviously, just like every other gun on this list, rubber users are completely immune to damage from it. So moving on, next up on the list we got the Musket, and the Musket is also an uncommon gun and it can be bought from the advanced weapons dealer who's located at Middletown in the first sea. And this gun costs a total of 8,000 belly to buy, and it is upgradable. You need 1 fishtail and 5 leather, and it gives you a 25% damage increase. This gun has 2 abilities, starting off with the Z ability, which has a 20 mastery requirement. It's called Dragon Bullet, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You kind of just shoot a huge special bullet that explodes on contact towards anything you shoot it at. Next up, we have the X ability, and this one is called Bold Pistero, and it has a 50 mastery requirement. For this one, your gun actually summons in a tornado, which drags anybody into the center and sends them flying into the sky and dealing a small amount of damage. Good things about this gun is that it has more damage per shot than the Flintlock and the Slingshot from before, but its reload time is a little bit longer, which makes it slightly worse, I would say, but it mostly depends on your PvP style. Both skills have relatively low mastery requirements, so it should be pretty easy to unlock the skills, and both moves are also pretty easy to land. And another thing, just like all the starter guns, is that it has really low damage, but this one is kind of bad for farming because when you use the tornado ability, you actually sling your enemies away, so that's not convenient. Next up on the list is the Flintlock. The Flintlock can also be bought from the weapons dealer at Middletown on the first sea, and it costs a total of 10,500 belly to buy. This gun's got 2 moves. First up, we got the Z ability. This one's called Disabling Shot, and it has a 15 mastery requirement. For this one, the user shoots a purple bullet, and anyone that gets hit by this bullet gets stunned for a short amount of time. Next up is the X ability, and this one is called Rapid Gun, and it has an 80 mastery requirement. And once you use this ability, the user shoots 3 different bullets that explode on contact with anything. Good things about this gun is that it's relatively cheap, it's pretty easy to get, and it's kind of decent for grinding some NPCs in the first sea. And obviously that has really low mastery requirements compared to some other guns on this list. Obviously, since it's a beginner level gun, it's not going to be doing that much damage, but it's still decent for the first sea. Next gun I got on this list for you guys is the Refined Slingshot, and you guessed it, it's just a better version of the Slingshot. Refined Slingshot is a rare gun that you can get from the advanced weapon dealer located at Marine Fortress for 30,000 belly. And it also does have a V2, which you can get with 10 angel wings and 10 metal scraps, and it gives the gun a 20% increase in damage. So the moveset is exactly the same as the normal Slingshot, but these abilities are a little bit better. The Z ability is called Sticky Pellet. It has a 40 mastery requirement and it's the exact same as the previous one. Once you shoot it at someone or something, it forms a huge sticky area which the user cannot leave if they're hit by. And the X ability, which is called Explosive Pellet, and it has an 80 mastery requirement, does exactly what it sounds like. It literally just explodes on contact. But keep in mind, the movesets from the Refined Slingshot do slightly more damage than the Slingshot. That's literally why it's called the Refined Slingshot. Just a better version of the previous gun. Overall, this is a decent secondary weapon for setting up combos, but that's only if you're in the lower levels of the game. Once you go up, its gun is going to become pretty useless. And a bad thing, just like the Slingshot, is that enemies can actually still use abilities when they're stuck in the glue, so you're not completely free if you hit them with that ability. And you also need really good aim to use this. So me personally, I'm not going to be choosing this gun. So next up, we got the Refined Flintlock, and this is the first rare gun that we got on the list. And this one can be bought from the advanced weapon dealer located at Marine Fortress in the first sea. This gun costs a total of 65,000 belly, and it does have a V2, which you can upgrade with metal scraps and 10 magma ore, and this gives the gun a 20% damage increase. And for the moveset, we got 2 abilities, obviously just like every other gun. First up is a Z ability. This one has a 40 mastery requirement. For this one, you shoot a purple bullet to wherever you're aiming your cursor, and if someone gets hit by the bullet, they get stunned for a short amount of time. Next up is the X ability, and this one is called Rapid Gun, and it has an 80 mastery requirement. And for this one, the user shoots 3 different bullets that explode upon contact with anything, producing 3 small explosions. Good things about this gun is that it's pretty easy to obtain, and it's relatively cheap even for the first sea. 65,000 belly is a pretty good deal if you ask me. It also has low mastery requirements, and the Z ability has a decent stun. But obviously, just like the other first sea guns on this list, this has really low damage, and and it becomes less useful when you enter the second sea. Next gun on the list is called Canon. And once again, this is a gun you can buy from the advanced weapons dealer who's located at Middletown on the first sea. And this gun is super expensive, and you can upgrade it to its V2, which costs 5 fish tails, 5 magma ore, and 5 leather. And this gives the gun a 20% increase in damage. This gun, like the others, has 2 different abilities. Starting off with the Z ability, it has a 40 mastery requirement, and it's called Alpha Wave. And it does exactly what it sounds like. It kind of shoots a huge beam slash wave in the direction you're looking at, and it deals a butt ton of damage, and it can actually attack multiple people at the same time. Next up is the X ability, and this one is called Incendiary Ammo, and it has a 100 mastery requirement. And for this one, you shoot 3 small orange pellets, which will all burst into flames, dealing a bunch of damage to everything around them. And this one obviously also does AoE damage. Good things about this gun is that it's pretty easy to obtain for the first sea, and it's the strongest gun that you can buy in the first sea, and its M1 ability actually breaks observation, so a lot of people use this for PvP even if they're not a gun main. Its Z ability has decent knockback, and its X ability is good for breaking observation, and also for grinding. But the thing about the Alpha Wave ability is that it's really slow, and with the other one, it's kind of hard to hit people that are mid-air, but overall, a pretty solid gun for the first sea. Next gun on the list is the Refined Musket, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It's literally a better version of the Musket. It's a rare gun, and the way you get it is by fighting the Magma Admiral, and once you kill him, you have a 10% chance of getting the gun dropped to you. This gun also has a V2, which you can get to by using 10 fish bones and 10 metal scraps, and it gives the gun a 20% damage increase. First ability we got is called Dragon's Bullet, and for this one, you shoot a huge explosive bullet that does a butt ton of knockback to the enemy. This one has a 75 mastery requirement. Moving on to the X ability, this one is called Bold Pistero, and it has a 200 mastery requirement. For this one, you summon in a huge tornado, just like the normal musket, but this is just a refined version, which means the tornado in this one is a lot better. And the pros and cons, I guess, are really similar, except that this gun actually deals a good amount of damage more than its counterpart, but I would still say for the amount of time it takes to get this gun, the musket might honestly be better, because I don't really want to sit here grinding the Magma Admiral just to get a gun. So moving on, we got the best gun in the first sea, the first legendary that you can find in the game, the Bazooka. The Bazooka can be dropped with a 5% chance after defeating the Whisper bosses, who's located at Upper Skyland. And this gun also does have a V2, but it's extremely difficult to get compared to the other ones. Moving on to the moveset, the Z ability for this gun is called Alpha Wave, and it has a 100 mastery requirement. For this one, it's actually similar to a different gun on this list where you shoot a huge pulse from your gun. It's kind of hard to hit, but it does a decent amount of damage plus knockback. Next is the X ability, and this one is called Incendiary Ammo, and it has a 250 mastery requirement. For this one, you launch 4 small bullets, and when they hit anything, they make a huge area of fire, doing a butt ton of damage to anyone standing in it. And this move also breaks observation. Good things about this gun is that its M1 attack and its X ability actually break instinct, so a lot of people use this even if they're not a gun main. And all the abilities actually have decently long range, and both of them do AoE damage, making them decent for grinding. Bad things are that, once again, it's gun from the first sea. Overall, guns from the sea are not really that good, but it is the best gun in the sea, so it's still usable in the second sea. But me personally, I wouldn't be using this gun anywhere above that. So moving on to the second sea, the first gun we got here is called the Acidum Rifle, and the way you get this is actually kind of unique. In the second sea, you have a place called the factory that gets raided every now and then, and you can get this gun with the chance after winning the factory raid with a measly 20% chance, so you're gonna have to grind that a bit if you want it. And this gun also does have a V2, which gives you plus 10% damage. So moving on to the moveset for this gun, first up we got the Z ability. It's called Spiky Bomb, and it has a 100 mastery requirement, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You kind of just shoot a huge green spiky bomb to where you're aiming with your cursor. It has decently long range and also does AoE damage, so that makes this pretty decent for grinding. Next ability is the X ability, and this one is called Acidic Smoke, and it does exactly what it sounds like. You kind of just spawn in a butt ton of smoke, dealing damage to anybody that stands in it. And you also shoot out 3 different balls of gas, so it'll be really easy to hit your enemy even if your aim's not that good. And this gun is overall used by a lot of PvPers, even in the third sea, because all of its moves break instinct, and its M1 attack does damage over time, stopping people from activating their observation again. It has really good stuns, high damage, and good range. That's why it's used in PvP even when it's not upgraded. And also has really high combo potential. The only bad thing I could say about this gun is it can't do damage to rubber users, but that's a given. I mean, it's literally a gun. And you also need pretty decent aim to use this, so make sure you're prepared when you get it. Next gun on the list is called the Kabucha, and this is another legendary gun, and it's actually the first gun on this list that you have to buy with fragments. And you can get it from the strongest god NPC on Usopp's Island, which is located southeast of the Kingdom of Rose in the second sea. And all you have to do is go talk to the strongest god, and you can buy the gun for 1,500 fragments. First ability, which is the Z ability, is called Flying Firebird, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You shoot out a huge firebird similar to the Ice Fruits ability, and what this does is it deals a bunch of AoE damage and breaks observation, and it has a 125 mastery requirement. Moving on to the X ability, this one is called Intense Wind. It has a 250 mastery requirement, and you shoot out a huge blast of wind that keeps going in the direction until it hits hit something or hit someone. And this ability also breaks observation and deals a butt ton of damage to your enemy. Good things about this gun is that it has great damage, good range, good for grinding, and it has a very short M1 cooldown, which means you can literally spam its passive ability. But I would say a con about this gun is that it's pretty hard to aim, so you need to get on the aim lab before you're able to use this. Moving on to the next gun, this one is called Czar Rifle. And once again, the way you get this is actually kind of unique. This is a rare gun and it can be bought for 25 ectoplasm from El Rodolfo. You might be wondering where this NPC is located and how you get ectoplasm. Ectoplasm is a currency that you can get on the cursed ship in the second sea. That's exactly where the enemy is located. This gun also has a V2 and it gives you plus 15% overall damage. Moving on to the moveset, the first ability is called Heat-Seeking Shot, and it's literally a sniper shot. You charge up your gun and shoot a huge blue laser to wherever you're aiming, and it deals a butt ton of damage and pushes out a small explosion. Moving on to the X ability, it's called Hellfire Shower, and it's actually similar to one of the abilities of the Flame Fruit. You just shoot out a bunch of blue pellets and it creates a huge blue flame on the area you hit, and it does a butt ton of damage to anybody that stands in it. So if you get hit with this ability, make sure you instantly dash away from the area. Good things about this gun is that it deals the highest damage of all the guns in the game if you add the burn damage, but I don't think anyone's gonna be standing in the fire for too long. It's also extremely cheap for how good it is. I mean, literally 25 ectoplasm. You should get that in no time once you're done with your quest at the ship. Moving on to the cons for this gun, people with the rabbit and ghoul races can dodge these pretty easily unless you have a combo setup, in which case they should be dead. Okay, so now we're moving on to guns that you can get only in the third sea, and first up we got the Serpent Bow. This is a legendary gun and you can get it by defeating the Island Emperor's boss, and the drop chance is literally only 2 to 5%, so it's gonna be really hard to get this, and if you want it, you're gonna have to grind this boss a butt ton. And this gun also has a V2, which gives you plus 10% more damage. So moving on to the skill set, the first ability, which is the Z ability, is called Poisonous Blast. It has a 120 mastery requirement, and it does exactly what it sounds like. It shoots out a huge special bullet that when it lands where your cursor, it deals a bunch of poisonous damage and a little bit damage over time, and it sends your enemy flying slightly back. Moving on to the X ability, this one is called Snake Bind, and for this one, your gun kind of shoots out a lightning pink snake. I'm not really sure what this ability is. It's kind of weird, but I know it's good because it has a 250 mastery requirement. Good things about this gun is that it does huge damage, it has good range, the M1 cooldown is really short, and it has decent combo potential. But a bad thing is that its M1 cooldown is not the shortest in the game. That title would go to the Acidum Rifle. And just like every other gun, rubber users are completely immune. So moving on, we got the first mythical gun on this list, the Soul Guitar. And this one costs a butt ton of stuff to buy. The way you get it is that you must be at least level 2300, which is literally almost max level. Then you have to go through the Soul Guitar puzzle, which involves the full moon and a bunch of materials. Literally 5,000 fragments, 500 bones, 250 ectoplasm, and 1 dark fragment. These items are kind of difficult to get. So this gun actually kind of has 3 different skills, because when you right click your mouse, you play a huge musical note that does a butt ton of damage to anything it hits. The next ability is called Soul Shaker, and this one has a 150 mastery requirement. And for this one, you literally summon in a huge skull that just shoots out a huge beam, dealing AoE damage, knockback, and literally a butt ton of damage to your opponent. And obviously this ability breaks observation. I mean, it wouldn't be the best gun in the game for nothing. Next ability, which is the X ability, is called El Diablo. This has a 300 mastery requirement, and for this one, you also summon in a skull and you shoot out a huge beam of light into the air, which deals a butt ton of damage to everything around it. And this ability is really hard to dodge, especially if you're next to a player when they use it. Good things about this gun is that it's literally the only mythical in the game, which makes it the best gun in the game. It has really high damage, overwhelming range, and you can hit people from super far away. And all of its moves are really good combo starters. One of the bad things I noticed with this gun is that all its visuals are really bright, kind of hard to see your enemy, but then again, you're going to be using observation while fighting, so that shouldn't be a